What's up, everyone? How's it going? I see you guys pouring in here. I know you guys have forgotten how to come to the live feed. I'd take a couple weeks off, man, so we can deal with some personal stuff and move past a couple things, and but we're back. So I appreciate you guys' patience and understanding. Probably be a little more unavailability here and there in the near future, but we're sorting through everything together, and it's going to be okay shortly. Tommy, thanks for tuning in. Anthony, thank God. I just went to my first race 2 weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago at Edgewater, and the first World Series of no prep. Had a great time, and then we went to Lapeer last weekend. Had a great time. This past weekend, stayed home. A bunch of remodeling and home maintenance to do while we're trying to get the house on the market. So stayed home this weekend. Would have loved to have gone to Kentucky. That looked like a great time. Bob Rice, No Prep Films, was live on that one, though, so I still got to see all that action, thankfully. What's up, brother? I'm happy it's back too, man. I miss you guys. It sucks when I don't have them, when I'm not on here on Monday to hang out with you guys. Yep. Pacemakers has a race Saturday. Always a good time there. I saw Gary put together the track Deep Prepper 6000 mega monster scraper with a big blade and 4 big flame-throwing jets. Make scraping the track easier rather. It's a hell of a machine Gary put together, man. That thing's awesome. If you haven't seen it, you can go over to Pacemakers page and check that thing out. It's pretty badass. Oh yeah, Gangster's Paradise list was announced today. Whew. I can't wait for that race. But a couple weeks beforehand, man, maybe we'll get Jeff and some of the racers on here, and we'll get the pregame on. What's up, Mr. Laurinaitis? How you doing, buddy? Yeah, I caught some of that action too, man. Yellow Belly's on my bucket list. I'm saving that trip for when the Blazers done. I'm not going down there just to spectate. I'm going there to race. Marty, what's up, homie? Steve and Jasmine. That Jasmine spelling always throws me off. Sorry. It's cool ass spelling, just unconventional. Throws me off. Appreciate it, man. I'm happy to be back. Like I said, I made a pretty big announcement a couple weeks ago, and I just had to let stuff die down. What I don't want to do is invite, have guests on here from companies and my personal life spill over into the live feed and distract the topics as we're talking about them. These gals are willing to take away time from their personal lives or their professional lives to come on here and talk with all of us and educate all of us. And I just always want to make sure we give them the absolute highest level of respect and courtesy. And part of that had to be me rescheduling a couple live feeds so that, again, my personal life didn't distract from any of that stuff, man. So I appreciate everybody's patience. Yeah, that's where I'll be Saturday. Detroit Hood TV, Milan. I love Pacemakers, but before they had theirs scheduled, I'd already committed to go to Mike's. So that's where we'll be Saturday. Detroit Hood TV up at Milan Raceway. gates are at noon, if I remember correctly, but let me pull it up real quick because I don't want to be a big fat liar, liar pants on fire. Yeah, man, Lapeer is awesome. So I'll be back this year. They reached out to me about coming back. They like the live feed, so I have to check my schedule and then check their schedule of dates for races that fit what we do, and I'll be back for sure. I like that track a lot. Yes, he did. That Falcon is flying down there. They did great. All those cars did great down there. Ohio Billy and SRC team, Bill. I guess he's still SRC team, but the old man's garage. Just to give him his own individual shout out. They represented very well down there. So I'm always happy to see Ohio represented well anywhere in this great country of ours. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. It's tough, and it's a pretty shitty thing to kind of put all your personal business out online like that. But at the same time, just want to make sure and squash any rumors or misunderstandings in advance. It was the only reason we did that. And again, I can't let it affect the professional life. Yeah, they did. I mean, they always do. Sometimes they have bad luck or whatever, but those boys always show up prepared and ready to go, and they usually do very well. So that's exactly right. Let's go, Ohio. Team Ohio. PM me that info, Steve. PM me that info. Let me see what I have on my calendar. But if not, we'll definitely help spread the word and see if we can help get some Ohio guys and gals out there. So we got, but Saturday for me, I'll be at Milan Dragway, PYOP. 12. Drivers meeting at 3. So never disappointing action up there, man. Always a great time, always great people. Small tire, big tire, hard tire, daily driver. So they're going to have a bunch of, they'll have a big field. They always have a pretty big field, man. They usually have, I'd say like between 36 and 64 cars on, do a great job. Do a great job up there. And then let's see. Let me pull pacemakers up real quick. Should have been more prepared on this one. Sorry about that, but you know how I roll. I'm full of shit. They don't have a flyer up. Let me see here. Or they got that under their events, maybe. Streetcar Nationals. There we go. Can we get that bigger? All right, so this Saturday you got the Streetcar Nationals at Pacemakers. No track prep, bracket style, no trailers, no burnout box, 750 slower, street tires only, 1 passenger allowed, no racing electronics. So looks like that'll be a good time too. I mean, I love Pacemakers. I love that track. Always have. It'd be a good time. So yeah, there's 2 great races right there this weekend. So gas them up and get your asses out to the track, help support racing, get your race car out and go race. So we got, hey Dan, thanks for tuning in. Brian, how's it going, buddy? Live feed, man, I'm in. Yeah, been a couple of days, buddy, or weeks, but what do you do? I haven't been going there that long, but I've been going pacemakers since the 90s, and I like that. I like that track a lot. I always have. Me either, buddy. Me either. I don't know. You know what I mean? I really need to hit the lottery or something. I don't know. I need to manage. I don't know how I could possibly. I don't know. I got to do something. I got to figure something out. I got to get the damn Blazer finished up. I got to quit talking about it. I feel like such a dumbass every time I'm like, I got to get back to work on it. It's just so hard right now. Oh, man. So we got Kyle Fisher will be joining us here in just a few minutes from Hot Shots. He'll be talking to us about lubrication. One or both, man. One or both. I'll take either. Either or both. Whatever. Actually, the lottery would be a lot better. I think I'm just going to wander around and be a nomad for a while. Oh, I bet, man. Did you guys take any video of it? Sure went live. No comment. I'm trying to be more understanding about our it's 2023, man. I just accept everybody and whatever their orientation is. And we know his orientation is is being the bottom. But, Hot Shots, big supporter of racing. Friends of the channel, friends of the World Series and No Prep. They're our title sponsor. Well, tag me in it and I'll share it to the OGR page. I'm excited to see that thing. Great products. I mean, I use them in all the daily vehicles. When we first got the RV, we loaded that thing up with, we lubricated it with Hot Shots every conceivable form or fashion. It's the only thing I'm running in the Blazer in every unit. Where it's in the rear end, transmission, the engine. Tony definitely butt chugs Bud Lights. There you go. Tell her to hook you up, man. Maybe she'll get lucky. What up? We'll see you up there Saturday, right? So Kyle just joined the chat. So let's bring him in and let's learn all his lubrication secrets. No pun intended, but I know how rowdy you guys get. So good thing about that is Kyle knows how rowdy all of you guys get too. So I'm sure he's well prepared.
Indeed.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Good, man. How you, bro?
I can't complain. You are the travelingest person I know.
I know. Tell me about it.
I don't know how you do it, man. I thought I traveled a lot, but I think you're probably one of the few people who out travel me.
I get around, and we brought back our West Coast series this year too. So um, now I got a lot more travel than I had
I,
before.
I just saw that post going out to Cali. Uh,
Oh,
I'm
last
not.
week, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that was like some retail stuff with AutoZone. That was actually non motorsports related, but the problem with that one is it came off the back end of I spent 8 days down at Matt's Mid America Trucking Show in Kentucky, so that's a long week, and then straight from there to California, and I'm back for a couple days, and now I'm heading out to Arizona this week for a race, and I got another race in North Carolina next week, and season's going. We're off and running, man.
Rack up those miles. So, uh, for those that don't know, wants to introduce yourself and give them the used car salesman spiel about who Hot Shots is and what you guys do there.
Well, I'm Kyle Fisher. I'm director of branding and promotions at Hot Shot Secret. We're an Ohio-based company. We are a lubricant company, so we do everything from fuel additives, oil additives, engine oil, transmission oil, gear oil, coolant. Um, if it's a fluid in the vehicle, we probably do it in some way. Uh, Hot Shot Secret is our brand. We also do a lot of private label work, and there aren't that many manufacturers of oil left out there. So uh, when you see all that stuff on the shelf, it's usually coming from a few different places. So we do a lot of private label business as well for other companies, but you guys know us all as Hot Shot Secret, and that's the that's the brand I represent. Ohio.
The greatest state.
That's right, buddy.
So, um, how did Hot Shots get its? You guys are a relatively young company, so how did you get your start, and how long ago was that?
We're actually older than you think, but we are young. Our parent company called Lubrication Specialties is 26 now. Um,
Okay.
uh, but it's actually a cool story. I guess I'll give you the we call the origin story. Really started with our founder Chris Gabrelchik. Um, he's a tribologist, which is the study of reducing friction between two moving objects, such as your engine components. So he was a father of what 6 kids and wife, and he was doing some big industry lubricant stuff, developing greases and different things for big organizations that help him save money and so forth. And he operated that company under Lubrication Specialties as a one-man show for many years, and he's like the true American story. I mean, if you can't believe in how this company came to be, then you just don't believe in America. It's just he was a hustler. He just grinded, and what launched Hot Shot Secret and what brought him into the automotive market was the Ford 6-liter engine. It's the 6.0s and the 7.3 diesels. They have a what we call Huey injectors. A Huey injector is a fuel injector that is fired by the it uses the oil in the engine to fire the fuel injector. So brilliant idea and concept. Catastrophe when they released those and they came out, and they were having all sorts of problems with the injectors, and Ford was suing international suing Ford, and they reached out to the tribology community, and I mean, Ford was almost going out of business at this time because of all the warranty claims on the injectors that they had to replace. And so Chris developed what a lot of you know. Actually, I think it's sitting there on your shelf right there. Stiction Eliminator. Look at that. You got props for me, man. I love it. Love it. Look at this. So he formulated that, which is an oil additive that was initially designed to clean the fuel injectors of a diesel engine. And He submitted that to Ford. They tested it with him for almost 2 years. Found it to be the best solution to the problem. And Chris thought he had made it. I mean, he was like, thought he just hit the lottery. Ford's going to get this big contract with them. And right about then, Ford said, yeah, we're done making these engines. And he was left high and dry with about every penny he had sunk into this one product. And so with his back against the wall, he decided, there's a lot of these trucks out there. They got a really good product that he knows that works, that's backed by the manufacturer. And he decided to take it to market. And we're headquartered in Mount Gilead, which is about 30 minutes north of Columbus. And Chris just started hustling locally. I think he got his first placement was in one of the truck stops up there in Mount Gilead, right off 71 here. And they put him on the shelf, and he was just known to like stalk fuel pumps. He would just go to truck stops and just hunt people down and just pop up behind a pump to be like, try my product, and really just hustled. And the interesting thing, a lot of people probably don't know about the brand, is the reason why that original product he called Hot Shot Secret. The product was called Hot Shot Secret. And this is to date the company. This is the time of the Katrina disaster down in New Orleans. And they were running all those FEMA trailers down from Indiana down to house the people after that hurricane. And all that was just the time of the 6 liters. So all those diesel trucks running up and down those FEMA trailers were all 6 liters. And his thought was, I'm going to target these hot shotters and let them know I've got like the solution to keep them on the road. So it was Hot Shot Secret to keep all those engines running. And he never foresaw what would become this company and how large we've grown now. But later after that, he changed that to the name of the company, the Hot Shot Secret. The product became Stiction Eliminator, and pretty much the rest is history. We just haven't turned back, and it's been a hell of a ride, and it just kind of set the stage for what kind of company we are, which we only make problem-solving products or products that we can, prove on a dyno, prove in the lab that you can have a performance gain out of. So we just stay out of like the commodity market. We let those big lubricant companies that got their names on the side of stadiums like fight to the bottom on commodity style. And we're really proud of what we make, and we've got some really cool technology that we have in the lubricant field, and that's just kind of the place we've lived in. And we finally hit it big the last few years and taken off. So it's been a fun ride trying to keep up.
No, and I appreciate you telling. I know that story, but I appreciate you telling everybody that story, because to me, that's like, it's a cool American dream come true story. Anybody can. I didn't know about now I got the visual of popping out behind the freaking pump at the gas station. Though, like, check this out.
It's a true story, man. He was awesome. Yeah, I'll give you even a bit more.
It takes sometimes, right? I mean,
it does. It absolutely does. You gotta believe, and you gotta push, and he had faith in himself to do it. And I'll even give you a little more of the American story. So years after, once he's gone to market, he's trying to really make it, but he's struggling, and the product isn't really doing too well. He got on the shelf at a couple retailers, and he was just trying to make it and struggling. His wife was to the point where he's like, you got 6 kids at home, maybe this is the time, you start looking for something else. But he had sunk so much of his life into this, and this is a true story. He tells it better than I do, but he literally got down to his last penny. Like he knew he couldn't make it another month of the business, and he was going to have to fold it. He wanted to be a man of his word. He sat down at his desk. He wrote a check to every debt he had, bottles, caps, labels, like all that stuff. And as he's writing this, he gets a call from 700 WLW, which is a big radio station out of Cincinnati that you probably know of. But he had been doing one of the only advertising he had done was with an overnight trucking program that runs out of 700 WLW at the time, and they were calling to renew his advertising schedule. And he's just like, funny you call. I'm actually folding up the business right now, and so we're not going to renew the advertising and whatnot. And he said, I always would love to go on your show as like a live guest, and talk to the truckers about, the lubricant problems they have, and see how I can help. And they kind of told him, we really reserve that for our big time, big dollar sponsors, like you're just a little guy, and, sorry to hear the business isn't working. And the host of the show, his name was Steve Summers. A lot of you guys might know Steve. He's been on the air for 25, 30 years now. His dad was a big time trucking. He's known as the Truckin' Bozo. He was a big time radio personality for 25 years before Steve, and so Steve had a warm heart for Chris, and he said, that guy worked out of a pole barn in his backyard to hand mix this product and get it out to the public, and it's sad that it's not working for him. So he said, why don't you let him on the air? He said, bring him down here and we'll put him on the air. We'll give him 10 15 minutes on the air. And so Chris kind of saw it as a sign that I might as well take one last hurrah at this. And he drove down to Cincinnati, and it's an overnight trucking program. So it's midnight to 5 a.m. And he drove down to Cincinnati where the studio is, and got his 10 minutes on the show. Well, truckers started calling in and asking questions, because normally you don't get to talk to like a tribologist about, really high level, lubricant stuff. And another long story short, he was on for 5 straight hours, and the phones were lit up the whole time. And he just had this rush of energy. They finish up at 5 a.m. He gets in his little car. He starts driving all the way back up to Mount Gilead from Cincinnati up 71, and calls the wife, and she's going crazy. And she's like, you're not going to believe this, but we have like 600 orders that came in like overnight. And he's like, you got to understand, at this time, he had his own inventory in his garage. Like, he's like, I had like 30 bottles to my name of this stuff, like, so literally the next day, he had the whole family over, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, everyone's in the garage, pouring bottles, measuring, capping them. And literally from that day, that was the turning point. Like literally back to the wall, last moment of the business, signing it all off. And it just took this one spark from a guy that gave him a little extra opportunity, and literally never turned back from there. We've just grown immensely ever since that day.
That is an absolutely amazing and awesome story, man. So many facets to that, but man, what a blessing. And what an awesome start for you guys.
So I got to give you the follow-up story that's tied into that. So fast forward, man, I don't know, 15 years. About 2 years ago, let's see, it's been about 2.5 years ago. I'm at a retirement party for one of our buddies at work, and to this day we still had advertised with Steve Summers on the overnight trucking program. And Chris just, as much as big as we got and all the marketing we did, we always kept spending with him, because it was just, Chris would never forget the guy that kind of reached out to him. And a couple of years ago, if everybody remembers, there was like a Black Friday in iHeartMedia. And by this time, iHeart had bought 700 WLW. And overnight, Steve Summers found out that he lost his job. They fired all the DJs like nationwide, 25 years in the air, got no warning, got told on a Friday after work that he doesn't need to come back Monday, and just had to walk away from his like fans and audience of 25 years of every night talking to him. Because it's a call-in show, they had relationships, with these people. And I'm at a retirement party for somebody at Hot Shots, and I'm sitting there next to Chris, the owner, the founder, and he taps me and he shows me his phone. He's like, look at this. And it was like a news article on how iHeart had just fired Steve Summers and canceled the show. And I was like, wow, man, that's awful. I can't believe that. And he just looks at me and he just says, make a radio station and get Steve Summers. And I just laugh, I'm like, all right. I mean, he's he's a dreamer. Like he always has big dreams. And but I kind of laughed for a second, and I realized he wasn't laughing. And um, he said that guy saved him when he was down, so he'll do anything he can to get that guy going. So no joke, in I think it was 32 days from that moment, um, I had gotten together. We built a radio station, got Steve Summers hired on the payroll, and relaunched his program, the Steve Summers Overnight Drive. Uh, Brought to you by the Hot Shot Secret, filmed live in the Hot Shot Secret studios. And what do you know? Now we're a lubrication company that has some radio program that we own, and it's not really normal, but that's kind of how Chris is. And he saw the guy that reached out to him when he most needed it, and it's been great. We've had the radio program for 2 years, and we just had Steve down at our Matt's booth. We were broadcasting our trucking radio show live out of our booth at Matt's this past week. So it was really cool to have that side of the business in with Hot Shots all in one place, and it was a good time. So it's a good story how it all kind of ties back. The guy that saved him, Chris now reached out and saved him, and we're all happy family now and all doing well. So it's like I said, it's America, man. It's about as American as it gets.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that story, and that just makes me appreciate you guys even more. But just in my experience, you guys are all awesome. Never met anybody from there that's like the slimy snake oil salesman that makes you feel, anything other than
you haven't
welcome.
Met Chris Lane?
Which one?
You haven't met Chris Lane? He's watching, man. I thought he's got to come on tonight.
I haven't talked to him today. I meant to call him, but I took today off. I had a bunch of errands and crap to run, and I meant to call him. But if he's watching, hit me up and get the link. Yeah, definitely come on. But anyhow, you guys have always, man, just been friendly, educational, not afraid to have a conversation and educate someone. I know I've asked a couple of dumb questions, and you're just like, blah, 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 and break it down nice and simply. I know there's a lot of technology in all these products, but you guys always break it down and make it nice and simple for a guy like me to understand. And,
that's what I try to do. We got really, really smart people at Hot Shots. I'm not one of them. I just play one on TV. What I'm really good at is what we always say is I unnerd our nerds. I can translate what they're saying to human speak. So
right.
I've gained a lot of knowledge from them, but it's certainly I'm not the one formulating this stuff. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but that's just as important because they speak their language, and that's how they're able to develop stuff like this. But they probably don't know how to break it down so that the average consumer can understand it.
They're socially awkward. For sure.
Me too.
But
so we got some.
That's really what we always try to do, though. Is we really pride ourselves in being open, educating people. Lubricants are always one of those things I always get a kick out of, especially in this racing world you're in. It's just one of those products that people look at as, well, I use this because my daddy's daddy used it, and my daddy's daddy used that stuff, and I've always used it in every car I've run and stuff, and I'll ask him, I'm like, well, are you running the same turbos that your daddy's daddy was running? Are you running the same block, like the same injectors? Like, oh no, they got all new technology out for that stuff. Well, they do in lubricants too, and that's what we try to do. We try to educate people, and I found real early in this industry that people are very oil loyal, and I don't know why, but they really are. So I don't fight people on it. I'll educate people on it, and it seems to be with education, people really learn what's in lubricants, how they're made. It really helps you out, kind of understanding like what's actually happening with them and how you can choose the right lubricant and really protect an engine. And that's what we pride ourselves in is trying to get the good word out there. There's a lot of bad products out there, and it's historically been an industry where there's been bad products and it makes people distrust additives and lubricants, but we are literally we were set on world domination of like killing all snake oil in the world. And just, I don't like to talk crap about other brands, but stop by one of our booths at one of the races, and we've got comparison sheets that show you exactly what's in everybody's stuff. We reverse engineer everybody's stuff. We test everybody's stuff, and we put data out there. So, if somebody's making a poor product, well, shame on them. We're going to show them that they are. It's no offense, they chose to make it, but as a consumer, as a buyer, as somebody who's got an investment, like a race car that they want to protect, you should know what you're putting in there. And it's a lot easier to know on hard parts than it is a lubricant. But that's where we just try to separate ourselves, is kind of get the education out there and let people know, make their own decision on, but at least it's an educated decision then.
Right. No, I agree. And that's one of the things that drew me to you guys is your willingness to educate, because you're right. A lot of racers will know every spec about their bearings, their crank, their valves, everything, but they're just using their daddy's oil because that's what's always been done.
Sometimes
daddy's engine was making 350 horsepower, and now you're making 1,500. Right. Or 3,500, or so the needs have definitely changed, the demands have changed, and the needs for additives have changed. Even in the daily driver stuff, like, so tell us, this is probably the one I see you guys talk about the most on all your.
That was the follow-up to Stiction Eliminator. After Chris had gone to market and the company started taking off, he's like, well, I got the best oil additive out there. I need to come up with fuel additive. And since we were so popular in the diesel market, he looked at how do you make the best possible diesel fuel additive. And that's what's kind of cool about the company. Here we are years and years later. We still formulate the same way. Our R&D department has no connection at all to the bean counters or marketing or anything. They've always had like free reign to go make awesome products, and first and foremost. And it's like we always say, if they're tasked with, like, say it was the diesel extreme days and they're formulating that, what Chris would always say is, if the U.S. government called and they said they need the best diesel fuel additive for our tanks rolling into battle to defend America, is there anything else you put in that additive? And our scientists would be like, well, sure, could always use a little more of this. Well, all right, then go do it. And he just kept sending them back to the lab until they finally would say, if you had $1 billion, I couldn't make a better product. This has got everything in it you'll ever need at the best we can do. And then at that point, we look at, okay, we have a product. Is it sellable? And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's so expensive that, it's just not a product that's, market worthy, but that's completely opposite of how most companies work. Most of them say, where's the hole in the market? What can we develop to fill that void that will sell? What's the minimum we can put in to make a claim on the bottle to get somebody to buy it? And your marketing's working closely with your R&D on how to develop products. And we just are fortunate that we just don't do it that way. We just, and if we can't make something that we can prove with science and data is better than anything on the market, the product won't get approved. We won't put the product out. And it's happened many, many times. A perfect example is our product called Gasoline Extreme, the kind of the antithesis of your diesel extreme there. For a lot of years there, look at man, you're like my Vanna White, dude. I like this. So for many years we kept asking about having a gasoline fuel additive, and there you go. And yeah, and Chris always said Chevron Techron is a great product, and it tests well, and it's always been really good. So he's like, why would I put a product in the market? He's like, I'll go buy Chevron Techron, and he to this day still tells everybody it's a great product, and we could just never beat it. We could tie it, we could make it a little bit better, we could get right there, but he just had no interest in hitting the market if it's not something head and shoulders. And if the market's already got it, why fight it? Let's let them have it. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until, man, I think it's just been 2 years now, 2 or 3 years ago, our lab found a new chemical in the market. See, new chemicals come to the market all the time, and they were testing on a new chemical that just kind of just blew their minds, and it allowed us to formulate that product, which is now the best gasoline fuel side cleaner on the market. And after 10 years of saying I'll make one if I find a good one, finally found one, and so now we have a gasoline product on the fuel side. So,
well, I do have research. I do have test data on this. When we bought that RV, I called Kyle and ordered their RV kit.
Oh yeah,
put the gasoline extreme in there. So I bought that thing. We bought it and picked it up near Toledo, and it had a slight mist to it and a hesitation. So I figured it was but I knew it on the front end. I figured it was an injector or something. We're going to have them all cleaned or fuel filter or whatever. But no shit. I was like, I'll just try this. And I poured this in there, and white smoke came out for a little while, and I was a little nervous. I was like, what did Hot Shots do to me? But swear to God, it white smoke for like 15 minutes, and that thing has never had the hesitation or stutter or anything since. I mean, absolutely. Obviously, it had a lot of varnish and crap in there, and it just cleaned it all out. And I mean, the thing idles and runs flawlessly now.
and I'll tell you
Cleaned
what,
everything out.
that was pretty early on that product. That was when kind of after we first came out with it. And funny story about Gasoline Extreme. This kind of also kind of encapsulate what kind of company we are. So when you bring an additive to market, you have to register it with the EPA. And a big company like us that is used to it, we know the process. You submit, you pretty much get rubber stamped, and when the EPA has time to get around to looking at your stuff, they notify you like 6 months later, like you're good to go. And in this case, we were launching the Gasoline Extreme, and we had done a 1,000 car after we'd done all our in-house stuff with the lab stuff, and we were doing real world testing. We did a 1,000 car test. We asked for volunteers that wanted to try one of our new additives, and we sent out 1,000 bottles. I believe like a quarter of them were Chevron Techron, like because Chris really likes the product and wanted to have a baseline, Chevron. One was just a placebo. It was absolutely nothing at all. Just like pouring fuel and fuel. And then two were two different formulas that we were trying to decide which would be the last formula. And the results of that set the final formula, which we went to market with that Gasoline Extreme. So we get a call about 6 months after we're gone to market, and it's the EPA, and it's never good when the EPA is calling you. So, but it was kind of like a funny, awkward conversation. The way they explained it is they normally don't have to make this call, because normally what they're doing is they're following up on false claims and trying to find snake oil, people making claims that they can't back up and everything. And they, and we don't get those calls because, we don't have those problems with our products. And so we're wondering why EPA is calling. They're like, well, actually, we're calling you about this Gasoline Extreme. It's actually a very, very good product. And it turns out it was too good. And it was so potent that it was going to have to be registered as a industrial grade product that we couldn't sell to the public. Now we've been selling it to the public already for like 6 months. So we're like, oh shit, and this is a true story. Like, they were actually impressed with the product enough that we also are not a huge company. We can't, that 1,000 car study cost us a ton of money. Now we go to market formulations, labels, roll everything out, selling it for 6 months. We had a lot of money invested. So to change your formula at that stage, it's just like you have to eat a lot of money because you have to do it all over again. And the EPA themselves said, well, if you just change your dosage, if you dial down the dosage and make your treat level a little bit lighter, then then you'll be within parameters and you're good to go. And we said, well, but all of our testing and all of our claims are on a certain dosage, so we'd still have to do all that research again. And they said, well, not if you put that under an off-road use dosage. And I'm like, oh my God. Because obviously that's like what a lot of companies use to get around EPA.
Right.
So I always tell people that are using that product, if you're trying Gasoline Extreme, actually grab that bottle, see if it's got see if it's got an off-road dosage on it. How many gallons does it say it treats?
45.
Yeah. Yep. So that's a modern bottle. That same bottle used to treat 20 gallons. And I bet that says it on off-road use on the back.
Well, that probably explains something, because the bottle you sent me for the RV, I just dumped the whole thing in there, and it was like treats 150 gallons. I was like, oh, 75-gallon tank. Oops. I read, like every other guy, I read the directions after I used it.
Of course.
So I wasn't going to say that part, but now that you said that part, I don't feel so bad then. I was within parameters for off-road use, which I was off-road. I was in my backyard.
There you go.
Calm down, EPA. Well, we had a question here. Should I completely cycle a tank in Gasoline Extreme before I go to the track, or does it not matter?
Well, depends what kind of fuel you're running at the track, of course. But if you're just running, if you've got a street car running pump gas, there's nothing wrong with having it in there while you're running. You wouldn't have to cycle all the way through. It's got a heavy injector cleaner in there. It's got a really great lubricity additive. It's our LX4, which is really what you want on the racing side, especially if you're running E85 or any alcohol type fuel. Pump gas. Yeah, you're good, man. It's a one tank cleaner, so it's not like, we come from the diesel world. Diesel fuel is awful. You got to treat diesel fuel every single tank like it's really bad. Gasoline's more highly refined, so it's much better produced product. So you really don't need a fuel additive in every single tank of your gasoline. Now, I would argue from a racing aspect, if you've got some fuel system components you want to protect, it's always good to add some lubrication, because the only lubrication you get out of the fuel is in the fuel itself. So there's a benefit to that in protecting your system. But other than that, the Gasoline Extreme, we say use it once every 10,000 miles. I tell people, when you're changing your oil, it's a good time to clean out the fuel system too, and run a tank through. So if that happens to be the same tank that you go to the track on, it's not going to hurt anything. And it's not like it's an octane booster either. There's no octane booster. Let's talk about octane booster. I love talking about snake oil. Oh, don't look around. We don't have any, man. So let's dispel octane booster right now. There's no such thing as octane booster. So all you guys out there trying to juice your fuel with these cans of boost stuff are just, that's snake oil. That's some bad stuff. There's one component that actually raises octane in fuel, and it's the same component we all have to use. The amount you have to use in fuel to move it anywhere is insane. So when you see those little 5-ounce bottles that say it's going to move your octane 3 or 5 or 7 points or something like that, we've tested those, and I think the best one we found moved a base fuel that was like 93.0 to 93.1. and that was the best, was 1/10 of a point of octane. To really move like a 5-gallon, let's even call a small 5-gallon cell of 93 octane fuel. If you want to try to make that 98, you need almost the same amount of fuel of octane boost. I think it's called MMT or MNT. I forget the chemical name. But you need almost the same amount of fuel to put in there. You're never going to get it done with a 5-ounce bottle. So people ask me all the time on the Gasoline Extreme, does this boost my octane? And I'm just like, no, nothing will. So give up.
Gasoline Extreme help with fuel stabilization, like for storage.
Yeah, there's a stabilizer in there, but I'll tell you one better. Ironically, what Josh just mentioned, the RV line we have, we're starting to release a grouping of our products based on different genres, different applications, if you will. So we put a whole line of RV products out. We've got marine coming. We've got motorcycle coming. We've got power sports, small equipment, all these different areas. And what we're doing is we're looking at, because we already have a great oil side cleaner. We have a great fuel side cleaner for both diesel and gas. So like, do we have something that's going to really like fit everything? Sure. But like, for example, this RV lineup, we took our products back to our tribologist in the lab and said, all right, you've got a great fuel additive here. But if you knew this was going in an RV, knowing how RVs are used, would you change anything in the formula? And the answer is, well, sure. RVs stop and go and sit in places for a very long time. Probably want to add more stabilizer to it. We're going to bring some stabilizer up. They deal with a lot of water issues from condensation in the tank from climate changes, from seasonal changes, and so we put a stronger water dispersion in it to disperse the water out of the fuel. So we can you use our regular fuel additives for it? Sure. But if you're literally looking for stabilization, I would actually go get our RV gas treatment. Even if it's not going in an RV, even if it's just using in your lawn equipment you're putting away at the end of the season, stuff like that. So that's got a much heavier stabilizer in it. I believe one dose of our RV gas treatment will stabilize gasoline for up to 2 years.
And one bottle will do 150 gallons.
Potent.
Ask me how I know.
We have 0 fillers in all of our products. 0.
Nice.
And that's kind of why we didn't blow up right away. That's why it took us a long time to kind of become who we're becoming. And again, that goes credit to Chris, our founder. Years ago, when we started getting picked up a little bit more, and he would go to the retailers to try to add a product. A perfect example is our EDT, our everyday diesel treatments, our most popular diesel fuel additive. It's really potent. A little 16-ounce bottle treats 400 gallons of fuel, whereas some of the other competitors out there have gallon-sized bottles that treat like 80 gallons. It's like, well, how is that? It's because there's like 3/4 of the bottle's filler. And this is how the world works, though, because these retailers at the time were telling Chris, nobody in my store wants to walk out paying $20 for your little 16-ounce bottle. Give them a big jug, fill it with whatever you need to put in there, but they want to go out with a big jug handle and they got a whole bunch of product. And Chris just said, no, there's no reason for that. There's no reason to water down the product. And we're 100% additive, 0 filler. And he stayed that way. And he turned on lots of money for many, many years until the brand grew big enough that the retailers would come ask and say, okay, well, we'll take your little bottles. People are asking for them now, So he held out pretty good, and it paid off now.
That's good. Sometimes you got to wait for the market to catch up.
Indeed.
Let's talk about this guy.
FR3. That is that. If you ever ask the corny question, what's the secret of Hot Shot Secret? That's the secret. That's really our magic sauce right there. FR3 is a friction reducer. It's an oil additive. You can add it to any oil on Earth. Conventional, synthetics. You can put it in gears, trans, diffs, hydraulics, any closed oil system, you can add that FR3 to. What it is, this is what we talk about when we're talking modern technology. We have 3 patents on that product. It's a carbon nanoparticle. Um, and it's just a different way of reducing wear between 2 pieces of metal. The industry generally uses moly or molybdenum, but most people have heard like liquid moly, and moly's an anti-wear agent that you add to oil. I would say 90% of the industry uses it. We even use moly in some of our stuff, and it's not bad stuff. It's been around for 40, 50 years, and it's good stuff. It breaks down though, so it's good out of the bottle. It's great at the beginning, and then day 2, day 3, every day gets a little worse. So it's got a depleting uh, ability to protect. The carbon nanotechnology that we've developed is where the whole lubrication industry is trying to go. We just our little selves in Mount Gilead, Ohio, just kind of figured out how to crack the code first, and so we got the big boys have knocked on our doors for many years asking for it, and Chris just would never sell it to them. He's just like, nope, we're gonna ride this one. So uh, it's we put FR3 in every single oil we make, from our racing oils to our over the road oils, transmission fluids, gear oils. It's in all of our oil additives. Like the Stiction Eliminator has FR3 in it. Like we put that shit in everything. Like everything that comes out this oil side gets
It's
that.
like Frank's Red Hot,
You got it.
which I am mad at your April Fool's joke, by the way. I
Oh,
saw
what
the
was
thing
this?
for hot sauce, and I was like, I love hot sauce, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta get some. Click the link, and I was like, mother, oh man. So
Yeah, I
if
didn't know
you,
where it was coming.
and also, so if you are that stubborn, I gotta run what my daddy's daddy run. You can still get the new technology on your um, subpar oil.
And that's honestly how I convert people. If you like your oil, keep your oil. Try FR3. Add that to your oil. You will see the gain. You'll see heat reduction. You'll hear noises go away. You'll get more power. We've got MPG gains on it. We have horsepower gains on it. Um, and that's with a 5% dosage. It's 1.5 ounces per quart of oil. So I just let people keep their oil. You like your oil, keep it. Let me have 5% of it and try it. Just take 5% of this and put it in your. You keep the other 95% of the oil. And when people see that much of a change, especially in the racing world, where people are using what they perceive to be, high end, racing oils. Well, when that FR3 can give you a gain on that stuff, that's when they start to open their mind a little bit and say, okay, what's in this stuff? Like, how's this stuff? What's it actually doing? And I can explain that as well. But usually at that point, I'm like, well, if you imagine if you give me 100% of the oil, how much we could do with it, and that's kind of like our racing oil, which we can talk about later if you want. But that's just kind of like the kitchen sink and everything was thrown at that. So, but yeah, that's how people usually convert over is they try FR3 first. What was that question? I just missed that.
Gary Moore, are you sure about Molly asking for a friend?
Look at Gary.
Ryan was asking how much you use. So this one quart will do 11 quarts of conventional fluid oil.
That's a 16-ounce bottle. Looks like, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. It says it treats 11 quarts of oil.
Yep.
Sorry, 16 ounces.
And you know what? I always still tell people too that are using our products. Something that is different about us as well. Like when there's a less formulated product out there, let's say, there's this thought of, if a little bit's good, a lot must be great. And that actually can holds true with some lubricants out there that are, let's just say, watered down, because as you use more of it, you're getting more of the good stuff that's like at a small dosage in there. With our products, I always advise people don't use more than we advise you to. Like, we formulate everything right to the peak of the gain curve. It's 100% additive. There's no other filler in it. So you're not going to get any more gain out of it by going past our what we recommend. Like literally, we have it dialed at the most peak amount of performance you can get out of it. So, and when I have stuff like FR3, if you've got like an ounce left over, like yeah, you could pour it in. You're not going to hurt anything, you know. But if I got an ounce of that left over, I go find like a lawnmower or a weed whacker or some small engine, something. You'd be surprised. Power steering, that FR3 is awesome in power steering. If you got like a big truck that's got, you know, kind of hard to turn or, you know, big tires are lifted, put a little cap full of that FR3 in your power steering and just roll it left, right a few times, and you'll be surprised what it can do.
Interesting. So if you use your oil, then it has that in it, I take it.
Yes, if you, all of our oils have FR3 in them. Yep. I use BR. Oh, VR1. VR1. I can show you some dyno results. If you're on our website, Josh, you can go to the FR3 page and look at dyno results. There's a, oh no, that's on the racing oil. Yeah, if you go to racing oil page, we got dyno results. That's actually where this whole thing started with FR3, and that's actually what started us into motorsports was VR1. The we were doing some testing with Firepunk Diesel that you can actually see we got their logo on that bottle there in FR3. And years ago, we didn't know them from anybody. We weren't in motorsports. We were dealing with diesel trucks and over the road stuff and bringing technology to them. And we knew this FR3 made horsepower. And we wanted to get some dyno testing on it. And somebody recommended Firepunk Diesel is like a, you know, about an hour from us, and they're a high performance diesel place that has a dyno. We called them and asked them if we could come down and do some dyno testing and pay for some dyno time. And, you know, obviously people probably know we're besties now. Those are my peeps. But at the time they didn't know us from anybody. Go down to engine oil. And then go down and click on the racing oil, that orange one there, yeah. And then go down to testing. Right there, dyno testing. Boom, there's your VR1. That was done at Firepunk. Do 5 baseline tests on that. Get a consistent horsepower, and switched over to that's a 50 weight R5. I think what we have there, that was a 24 horsepower gain, 24 on 764. So what's that break down to? Let me do my math real quick. 24 on 7. So that was a 3.1% horsepower gain. That's pretty much average for us right there. We generally see about a 3% horsepower gain with FR3 involved. Excuse me. And like I always tell people, we're not inventing this horsepower. We're just freeing up the engine to make that horsepower, reducing the resistance, reducing the wear, bringing heat down, allowing more power to be made. So it's not what we pride ourselves in is the engine protection. When we see a horsepower gain, to us, that's less metal touching metal. So we're prolonging that engine. Obviously, in the race world, guys really like the horsepower stuff. That's also why I really like the no prep stuff, because no prep, I mean, very rarely anybody's using all their power, you know. So the need to get an extra 3% horsepower isn't always that important in no prep. But staying on the track all year is keeping the engine together, getting out to races with more chances to win. That's important. And that's what we pride ourselves in, protecting the engine.
Troy said, "Where's the Harley oil?"
A lot of people run that R5 in Harleys. We have a good Harley oil that we just have not released yet. We did some testing with Harley out of Cleveland somewhere, and Chase has been looking for that for a while. I think it's going to come out with the motorcycle stuff though, which is I think second up. I think we got marine first, then motorcycle.
What do you recommend for use with Brad Penn? Well, since they got new owners, I hear. Never mind. I'll be nice.
I'll be nice too. Hey, but again, you cannot go wrong by adding FR3 to any oil. Brad Penn is a Group 3 oil. It's got a good zinc package to it. They use a lot of moly. Moly's actually green, so anytime you remember any of the green oils, that's because they're using so much moly in them and stuff. So this kind of went that direction. So, but it's nothing special. I mean, it's a pretty standard formula for a racing oil.
It's junk.
I'll say this much: Brad Penn used to be a very, very good oil. It was.
What I was going to say. To be fair, until what they sold, 4 years ago,
Yeah.
And then I heard a bazillion complaints, and I haven't heard anybody say that they went back to the company that they used to be.
No, I honestly, we haven't tested it for a while, so I don't know if it's got any better. But yeah, there definitely was a big change in that oil. It used to be one of those bulletin board oils for us, that was like oil. Like when I hear guys running that type of stuff, I actually like it because it tells me that person cares about their oil.
Yeah.
It's like Schaefer. Schaefer's, I respect that company. Like when I see oil analysis from Schaefer's, they're really high end stuff. It's a good oil, and it does a good job. So like, I can respect good stuff, and I can respect a good effort at making a quality oil. And there's a few different ways that you can make an oil. Like, uh, it's another nerd conversation. But the ones that are knowingly making a poor product, and it's like you're leaving a lot of stuff on the table. That's painful. So the ones that are good out there, I respect them.
Yeah, I just remember it seemed like they were sold late summer, early fall, and that winter and spring, everybody was complaining about their oil gelling up and turning into gel
Jelly.
like blobs.
Yeah.
Do you do oil analysis on customer vehicles?
Yep, absolutely. We do oil analysis at cost. We've never made $1 off of it. Again, it's one of the things that Chris has always been behind. He's a huge component. I am too, and it's one of the. This goes back to how good is your oil. The people that say, my daddy's daddy oil. And I've never had a problem with my oil. And so I'll ask people like, well, what is your metric for saying you've never had a problem with your oil? Well, my engine's never blown up. I'm like, wow, that's a pretty big gap there between we're doing good and it hasn't blown up yet. So in our world of oil, everything's measured by parts per million. So we're talking very, very, very small, little tiny levels of metal that we're measuring everything by. So when we can take an oil, and if we just get back to the additive part of it, and I can add an additive 5% into your oil, that we can then do analysis on the back end of it, put the same load on it, put the same number of hits on it, the same miles, whatever you want to do an A/B test, and we see your parts per million of your metal count drop in half. That is effectively extending the life of that engine by 2. We just cut the wear down by 50%, and we commonly see that with FR3 and any competitor oil, let alone our own.
And then that's a ridiculously huge value, giving you that kind of reliability and stability. I know Troy's on here. He's well versed with Bill Lutz too. But I mean, I've just never seen that dude's run some of the wickedest, nastiest fuels that would turn other oil into shit. And Bill and Kenny, 0 fucks. I mean, they don't take it easy at all.
Nope.
I mean, they've definitely been a good test bed for you guys on the torture test.
Exactly. And that's what we love. I'll tell you, that's what's really separated how we have approached motorsports ever since we got in it. It's an extension of our R&D. And do we am I set out for world domination of racing? Yeah, that's a long way away. I mean, we've done really well in diesel drag racing and pretty much own that side. And I'm coming after you gas guys next, and we're getting big in sled pulling and a few other sports, kind of motorsports type of stuff. But it really isn't even the benefit of the branding and the marketing and the promotion that you get out of these relationships. It's the partnerships with crazy son of bitches like Bill Lutz that gives zero fucks. And like you said, it's the perfect torture test, man. And we get great data, and I feel, and it also gets me. I get a kick out of it when I got a guy that's got, when I got Matt Rice calling me, telling me that he just blew up another LS engine, and it could have possibly be the oil. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure if it held up to Bill's, it held up to your LS. So it gives us good credibility, I guess, on how far you can take the oil. But Bill's a fun guy to work with because I remember when we first started talking to him, I forget which oil he was running, but it was one I wasn't very familiar with. But he said it was like the best he could find, the best that was holding up. And all I ever asked, give me a shot, let's give us a shot. And he did. And we've been with Bill for years. It's been quite a long time. And he dumps a ton of alcohol. Like, I think we measured it at one point. This is before the blower setup, but back when he was still turbo, when we still started working with him, I think he was pushing a quart of fuel in the oil per pass. Like, it's, like insane amounts. And we get those talks about dilution and the guys running alcohol and stuff, and how much dilution is safe, and what viscosity should I start at to balance it off. And these guys always tell me, oh man, I'm putting so much alcohol in there, and it's just like, meet Bill Lutz. Like, not even on the same level, so we can deal with your alcohol.
Ryan liked to try to have the analysis done. Who would he contact?
We actually sell them right on the website. You can do that, or you can give me a call or shoot me a message. I can get you one out. I think they're like $25, and that comes with a prepaid mailer back to us. It comes with the cup and the sealer and a bag that's prepaid. So all you got to do is grab your sample, seal it off, put it in the bag, drop it in the mail, and it comes back to us. And in a few days, you'll get a full analysis. And the other thing that we like to do too is, like I said, we like to educate people. So if a lot of times people have never seen an oil analysis before, so it's like, great, now I've done this. I'm doing a good thing here. I'm getting like my blood test on my vehicle, checking the health of my system here, but now you're looking at like documents that don't make any sense to you. So I'll walk you through an analysis. I mean, I'm at least that good now. I can pull that off until I get stuck on something. But if it's above my pay grade, we'll take you right to our tribologist, and they'll walk you through and what every line item on it means. And there's just nothing better you can do for your engine to understand where the health of the engine's at right now. And we spot more issues before they happen through analysis. Head gasket leaks, I mean, all sorts of stuff that can potentially be catastrophic, but catch them before they happen, and there's a lot of markers out there that we can tell in analysis.
Well, I can tell you, I've had good luck with the Gasoline Extreme and Shift Restore, as far as just noticeable differences. So they definitely work.
They do, and again, we're proud of what we make. We don't mess around. At this point, the way we built the company, we can't mess around anymore. If we put out one product that doesn't work, like, we're screwed. It's like people are just waiting for us to be like, oh, there's some junk from them finally, and So
Yeah.
we won't, and we protect the line pretty good. And one thing I always forget to tell people is we have a 100% money back guarantee on every one of our products, and we're the only lubricant company in the world that does that. Um, and that again comes from Chris and the way he wanted the company built. And it's not. I mean, we're specifically told not to use that as like a marketing ploy. Like we don't want to use it as a marketing tool, like um, as an excuse to buy the product. The reason is he wants people to look to lubricant solutions for some of these problems that we have in vehicles. We're not the solution for everything. It's not magic in a bottle that's going to fix a mechanical problem on your vehicle. But what they're designed to fix, they will fix if that's your problem. And so the transmission, the shifter store is a perfect example because they're hard to diagnose, they're expensive to diagnose. You start getting some slip shifting or some sticky shifting or something like that, you've got a bad date with the transmission shop coming up, and you just hope it's not bad. Um, that's where that product comes in. Our shifter store. It's a Group 5 ester. It's a really good high end oil ester that is polarized. It's attracted to heat. It finds the hot spots in like your valve body of your transmission where the coking of the oil is built up, and it returns those hydrocarbons back into a liquid form and allows your transmission to flow more freely again. It's going to do that. If that's your problem, it will fix it. I guarantee you. I've seen it time and time again. If you've got a mechanical problem, it will do nothing to help you. But before you know that, it's much easier to go buy a $20 bottle at the store, pour it in, and see if it will work rather than scheduling a date at the transmission shop. And here's the thing, if it doesn't work for you, it never was going to. And that's why we want you to have your money back, because now you got to go get an expensive date with the transmission shop. And we want you to have your $20 to go get that fixed. We don't want to keep your money on something that wasn't intended to work. So this whole money back guarantee thing is really meant for you to feel comfortable trying our products when you run into a problem without having to worry about. And we really do. Like, if anybody ever asks, we just refund their money. We don't even ask. There's a secret. If you want some free stuff from us, just tell you so you didn't like it, and we give you your money back. It's just, we don't argue with people. It's just, we want you to try it. And it happens to be that transmission one is one. It either fixes someone's problem. They can't believe they fixed a transmission problem with $20, or it does absolutely nothing at all because you have a mechanical problem that a lubricant ain't going to fix.
Don't be scamming these people.
Operating temp to burn off any E85 or anything. Not following, Ryan. Is he talking about dilution into the oil?
Not sure. Troy was about Bill Lutz said, yeah, which I know those hillbillies, they'll push 5 gallons into the block and still not change the oil all weekend. I mean, they literally are the hillbillies there ever was.
Yeah.
What's up, John? How you doing, buddy?
I get that all the time too. Is our oil is really expensive. Racing oil is really expensive. And people are, and if you're spending money on oil, on a good oil, you do care about your system. So you're my type of people. You get an investment you're trying to protect. You're trying to make a good decision, use a good oil. And now you don't want to change it because it costs so much. And it's like, how much life can I get out of it? And that's stuff we can help you with too. Even if you're not using our products at all, we still do oil analysis and those consultations, at cost. We do the consultations for free. So if you're using one of our competitors' oils, we don't care. You can send analysis to us. We can check the dilution rate if you're running E85 alcohol. I can tell you exactly how many passes you can run while safely on that oil. And most of the time, it's much more than you think it is. But some guys that are dumping a lot over can only get a few in, but we can at least let you know so you get the most out of your oil investment too.
Well, and I think it's lubrication is always a wise investment in any pistonic motion environment.
It's cheap insurance.
Let's see, here it is, Ryan. Any instructions for the sample at work? We just drain it cold. Didn't know if you require the oil to be at operating temp or whatever when put it into sample bottles.
Good question. So, yeah, the best way to take a sample, is to have is to plumb in a sample spout. To be honest with you, if we're talking a race car, you guys have enough plumbing going on. It ain't hard to plumb a little spout for a nice clean sample off the side of your line. And I've gotten some of my guys to do it, which I love to death. But if you're still pulling a plug, draining the oil, and that's where you're getting your sample, there is the best true sample to get would be a warm engine where the oil's been circulating. It's got all the little medical particles are all mixed up nice and good because it's been running. I always say a perfect sample is about as hot as you can bear. If you want to get your cup under there and get your hand in that hot oil, I almost say hotter is the better because that means it's more mixed up. Because as soon as you shut that engine off, you will start to have stuff settling to the bottom of your pan there. So especially if you're taking it cold, I guarantee you that you're probably getting a little some false flags in those readings because you probably had enough metal settle to the bottom that as soon as you open up that tap, you're going to get an unfair test. Let's say it's going to have more sediment and particles in it than it should. That's also why you never take a sample out of an oil filter. We get that stuff all the time where, somebody want to do an oil analysis and they forgot. They already pulled their plugs. They drained all their oil out. And they're like, well, I still got some of this oil filter. And they turn the oil filter upside down and put it in a sample. They send it to us and we're like red flags, like your engine's about to explode. It's like, this is not good. But all it is all the metal that your filter caught. You just put into a little 4-ounce jar. So it looked really bad. So yeah, the perfect way to do it, warm engine, make sure the oil's been nice and circulated, clean very, very good around your plug. Again, we're measuring by parts per million. So clean it very good, pull your plug, allow the initial to start flowing, dip your sample cup in midstream into a hot stream, and you're good to go. That's what we like.
And so how many times a year or how many passes would you say the average racer would need to get their oil diagnosed?
That's a good question. I mean, depends what you're looking for. I mean, if it's my car that I got a lot of money in, certainly after when I'm figuring out the build and just getting out there, like you're going to have yours out there pretty soon. I mean, out of the gate, I'd want to see. Me personally, I want to see a sample every weekend until I see what's going on with the engine. And analysis are only as good as projections that we can make on them. So one analysis gives you it's kind of like a heart check. It gives you kind of some peace of mind of a snapshot in time, but it really doesn't give you any projection. We need another data point. So then you take another data point, and now we can start to trend line stuff. You give me 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, the more, now we can really dial into what's going on with the engine. So, I mean, the more the merrier. I mean, the basic one we do, I really think it's $25. And if you can't spend $25 on doing a full check of your engine or trans, or I mean, we can test about any fluid, you're just doing yourself an injustice.
Trans for no prep guys, that's huge. Honestly, especially a lot of guys running the dump valves and staying on the brake and all that stuff just cooks the freaking fluid.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you said that because I will definitely send mine every week. How long does it take to get results back typically?
After we get it, it's usually just a couple days.
So I could send it Friday and get it back before next weekend's racing. Perfect.
Yeah, we usually have it within a weekend.
No, I'm all about collecting as much data as possible. Like annoyingly so, because you'll be like, that motherfucker really is sending this every week. And I'm like, yeah, I really am.
Hey, the more the merrier. I mean, it's amazing how many people have never done an analysis, and it's we should do that sometime. We should walk through an analysis and just so you see the categories and what it's like reading a book, especially when I get my nerds involved and you get one of the tribologists there to break down, because I know what everything means in each column, they're like, they know what everything means cross-reference. Oh, well, if you have high this and low this, I guarantee you this is low over here, and you flip it over, and you're like, how'd they know that? So they're like on a whole another level than me, but there's nothing better you can do for your car. And not even your race car, your daily drivers, like you want to extend the life of them. Let's find out what's going on with them.
I, I, I did. I put 8 drops of this on the treadmill. So much smoother.
I bet. That's where our gun oil came from. And our gun oil comes in a little tiny squeeze bottle. I put those little drops everywhere. Oh, yeah, you get a big bottle. I got to get you one with a little needle. I like the little needle top.
Yep. Got the gun oil. You can see I've used some of it.
I put that stuff everywhere.
I only put it on the guns, but I can start using it on other stuff too. I have to find out what else.
I'll put it on a squeaky hinge, a door, you name it.
Oh,
that's probably the baddest product that we have that nobody knows about.
There we go. Never Rust lubricant. Tell me all about it, because I have not asked you about this, so I haven't used it. But now that you said it's the baddest, I want to spray it on everything.
All right, so Never Rust. First of all, rule 1, shake it. And when you're done shaking it, shake it some more. And when you're done shaking it some more. You really have to agitate that product. It's a 2-part product that completely settles like water and oil does. So we actually sell it by the gallon. It's pretty cheap to buy by the gallon. I put it in like a weed sprayer, like a garden sprayer. You can undercoat a whole truck with that stuff. It's awesome. When it's in the gallon, you can actually see it separate. When it's in the can, you don't see it. And we're all guilty of shaking a paint can a couple times and being like, oh, that's good enough, But all right, so Never Rust. Here's what I didn't know about lubrication. You basically, on the aerosol category, you basically got 3 different things. You got an anti-rust, you got a lubricant, and you've got a penetrant. We still haven't released our penetrant, only because there's some really good stuff out there that we can't beat. Like I said earlier, Croil. I don't know if you've ever used Croil, but that stuff is awesome. So that's a really good penetrant. The lubricant, we have a lubricant, aerosol lubricant called Spray and Stay. It mixes coming out of the can, and it's liquid, but it tacks up like a lithium type grease. Really interesting stuff. And then we've got the Never Rust. So like we test everything, the Never Rust gets put in. It's an ASTM test called a salt fog bath. And what that is they take little blank pieces of steel blanks. They treat them all with the lubricants, and they put it in a controlled environment that sprays salt fog on them to promote oxidation. And the quicker, the better the protectant, the longer it takes before oxidation starts. So we tested everything on the market. And to my surprise, the number one thing out there was WD-40. Actually, the WD-40 Pro, they got like a silver can instead of just like the plain blue one, but they have a WD-40 Professional Edition. And that tested the best on that salt fog test. I believe it went 120 hours. The rest of the industry was like 110, 90, 80, around there. So it was above everything else. And that's where we kind of put the punch board. That's where to beat. That Never Rust product right there tested at 2,700 hours. It was over 20 times longer than the best one on the market. And so that stuff, I'm telling you, if you want to keep anything from rusting, that's it. But you got to shake it. You have to. If you don't shake it, it will do nothing. It'll do nothing. But if you shake it a lot, that's some really good stuff.
It says shake thoroughly before each use.
Yeah, I think it should say more than that. It say keep shaking and keep shaking.
I was going to say it should say like 60 seconds, 2 minutes.
It should,
based on what you're saying.
It should.
That's impressive. We used to send, when I had the powder coating shop, we used to have to do a bunch of those. We'd have to do cross hatch tests on the powder coating, and that salt spray test is no joke.
Yep. A lot of my buddies in my, I'm always at a race vendor booth, and all that, and I got a bunch of companies that I'm friendly with that sell transmissions and turbos and engines and injectors. So they've got all these, outdoor carts that we have out at the races in our vendor booths with, a cutaway of like a transmission and stuff. And those things all like they're out in the elements, so they're hard to keep them in good shape. And um, when we came out with that product a couple of years ago, I just like walked down vendor road. All my buddies like, dude, spray your stuff with this, and now they all come to me just because we're all roadies together. All these companies we work for, we see each other on the road, and that's become a big use of that product is uh, different types of racing displays and vendor booths to keep them from rusting out at the shows.
Hey, but that's important, man. We don't set up like you guys set up, but still, there's a lot to dragging shit all over the country and setting up displays up and down, and keeping everything nice and presentable.
And up and down and up and down. Story of my life.
What else? I don't got anything else. I mean, I've got tons of other stuff. Let me see what I got on the shelf over here.
Oh no. What's you got?
We haven't talked about.
Look at you with the gamer chair.
Yeah. Nope. The only other thing I got in here, we did talk about it, but just so you guys,
sure.
Just so you guys can see it.
It's good stuff.
The good stuff does work well. I just ran out of room on my shelf, but I'll put it in the back.
All right, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk racing oil while I'm on Ohio Grudge Racing. So I'll give you my pitch on racing oil. And after this, anybody can go out there and use whatever oil they want, but know that you've been educated on what's in it. And know this: we never had an intention of becoming a motorsports company. We never had an intention of even putting out a racing line of products. The FR3 dragged us into that when we tested with Firepunk, like I told you before. They were like, we're going to run this stuff, and you guys should make a racing oil, and they dragged us into it. And I was like, cool, let's do it. Everybody else there was like, do we really want to do that? And so when we got the ability to do it, one of the cool things is we're not a racing oil company. If we were, we would never be able to make the racing oil we do. We make no money off of it. It costs us an absolute fortune to make. There's no margin at all. It literally has everything in the kitchen sink and more in it. I promise you, it's the greatest racing oil ever formulated, because nobody's stupid enough to make an oil like this, because it's just not, it's impossible to be profitable off of it. But we decided that it can be a product that allows our R&D to show off. Certainly our racers that run it and all our sponsored guys out there that run it, and the people that are investing in it because they're trying to protect their expensive investment. It's the best thing you can get. We make money off of our additives that people buy at Love's and TA and AutoZone and O'Reilly's and and stuff. That's what pays our bills. Is these retail stores and stuff like that. The racing oil that funds the fun of racing oil, and allowing our R&D to make something really cool. So here's what's in it, and here's what's probably not in yours. So first and foremost, oh man, I'm not going to get into groups oil. We've had groups oil talk. I've given you that lecture before, I believe. We're not going down that road. So the all-in-oil is it's a base oil and an additive package. That's it. And we all get to decide as manufacturers what we put in it. So let's just talk about the base oil. That racing oil is a group 4, what's called a PAO, a polyalpha olefin. It's a true synthetic base oil. And not only that, we use pure. It's a 100%. I think there's only a couple other companies out there that use Group 4 base oils. I know Schaefer's. I told you earlier, I'm a fan of some of their products, and I think Schaefer's uses. They won't tell you, but I think it's around 5% or so. We use 100% pure. What a group 4 is, and here's where it gets complicated and kind of confuses people. A group 3 is what the world calls a synthetic oil, and we even call them synthetic oils because that's what the world understands as a synthetic. None of those group 3s are actually synthetic oils. They're just more highly refined conventional oils. So, which is a group 2. So to run up the ladder, you start with a group 1, which is just basically black goop out of the earth where all petroleum and oil starts with. You run it through a hydrocracking process, which is refining the carbon chain in it to make it stronger. And you get to a group 2. That's your conventional oil. That's your cheap Midas oil change. That's your cheap oil, as you call it. You put it through that same refining process and you hydrocrack the oil even more to clean up the carbon chain to make it even more streamlined and stronger. You've got a stronger oil now, and that's what we call a group 3, which is what the world calls a synthetic oil. All you have to do is to get to that group 3 level to be called synthetic. There's absolutely zero about the oil that's synthetic. I mean, it is no different than the group 2. It's just hydrocracked even more.
Which translates to smaller oil particles, correct? Simply.
No, but
smaller, cleaner.
Close. It means the carbon chain is cleaned up more. So if you're to picture a group 2 conventional oil, it's kind of bushy. So the particle chain is kind of all over the place. Well, all those limbs that create that bush can be broken off. And that's why a conventional oil breaks so easy, or what we call, falling out of grade or shearing the oil, the viscosity. So your 40 weight, if you're running a 50 weight oil in your race car, and it's a Group 2 conventional, you can literally shear that oil down to like a 40 weight, thin it out in just a few passes, depending on the type of load you're putting on it and what type of, way the engine's set up. So you can then go to a better oil, a Group 3 synthetic oil, quote unquote synthetic, my bunny ears. And that has been hydrocracked more. So now that bushy carbon chain is now nice and cleaned up. And it's a nice tighter chain. There's less areas for it to break. It makes it stronger. It gives you durability against shearing. And that's also why when you go to the oil change place and you get the synthetic oil change, it can last longer and you can go 25,000 miles on it. Well, when we go to Group 4, it's a whole different universe. We're not even in the same ballpark. And this is where you get to real, true synthetic oil. If you go into your parts store and you look at that wall of oil that's as big as you can see, and you see conventional, semi-synthetic, synthetic, there is not a single bottle in that parts store that's truly a synthetic oil. They're just Group 3s. They're just hydrocracked a little more. The Group 4 is when we finally enter real synthetic oil. And what that is that carbon chain, rather than cleaning it up, we have now busted the puzzle down to its puzzle pieces, its elements. And we've torn the oil down all the way down to its bare rudimentary elements. And then in a lab, it gets rebuilt back up to a perfect carbon chain. Now we've synthesized the oil. Now man has got his hands on it and controlled the structure of the oil chain. The benefit of that, the benefit of a Group 4, is that we can literally replicate an identical carbon chain. And now there's literally nowhere to break that chain. It's virtually unbreakable. What that means, to bring this home in layman's terms, is we first started this technology with over-the-road truckers that were looking to go long intervals. So in order to get a base oil that could hold up to a long interval, we used Group 4 base oils. We had our first truck. Years ago, we did a 100,000 mile challenge to see if any trucks could go 100,000 miles on their oil without changing it. And these big rigs put quite a load on their oil, and they're big capacities, but they put quite a load on it. We had many trucks go there and then some. Matter of fact, recently in the past year, we had our first truck hit 200,000 miles on the same oil with no oil change. And that blows people's minds that you can go 200,000 miles without changing your oil. Let me preface it with saying it's not as easy as just pouring in the oil and going. There's a couple caveats to it. You need to have a bypass filter, which keeps the oil clean. And we do regular oil analysis, and we have a additive package spiker that we can spike the oil to bring the additive package back up as it depletes down. So there's more to it. But as far as the base oil, the only way you can go that far is a base oil that will not break down ever. And that's what a Group 4 PAO, polyalpha olefin, true synthetic oil is. I'm saying all that because we had a lot of experience in that as the only company that made a Group 4 pure oil. So when it came around time to make a racing oil, well, what do you think oil they started with? They're like, well, we see these Bill Lutz guys out there that can shear an oil out of grade literally in a pass or two. Well, might as well use a pure Group 4 base oil. So all of our racing oils are 100% polyalpha olefin. So you can do what you want to that oil, and it will, if you're running a 40 weight, a 50 weight, a 60 weight, it will always be in grade. You cannot shear it out of grade. So we just take that off the table as one of the things that you have to worry about with a lubricant in your racing program. Because as soon as you shear it and it drops down to a 50 or a 40 weight, you can do some major engine damage because you don't have the right viscosity to protect your bearing tolerances and clearances. So with our racing oil, you don't have to worry about that. Caveat being alcohol dilution. That's always going to bring your viscosity down. And we're actually working on some stuff for that, some crazy technology. But that's just your base oil. So that's what we started with, is the world's most expensive base oil. And then let's go to the additive package. I said earlier, most of these guys are using moly, molybdenum. It's a very common anti-wear. But what people always talk about when they talk about racing oil or oil in general, the first thing they'll say to me is, how much zinc do you have in it? How much zinc? How much zinc? How much zinc? And most people don't even know what zinc is. They just know it's something that's good in your engine to protect it. And frankly, it is. It's good it's an anti-wear. The industry uses what's called ZDDP, which is a phosphorus-based zinc. A lot of you out there are buying zinc, like from Summit Racing, and pouring it in your oil yourself. Please don't do that. It's not the best way to blend zinc into an oil. And actually, too much zinc in not the right oil can actually have detrimental effects. So it's certainly not one of those things of a little's good, a lot's great. Like, take it easy on the zinc, folks, please. But it is true, zinc's a very good anti-wear when blended properly into a good oil. So we use ZDDP in all our oils except for our adrenaline racing oils. We use actually a sulfur-based zinc. It costs a ton more. It's about has twice the strength as your traditional ZDDP does. So if one oil has, say, 1,000 parts per million of ZDDP, we can get the job done with about 500 parts per million of the sulfur-based zinc and get the same protection out of it. That being said, we also know that people are conscious, label shoppers. And if they looked at one bottle and said, hey, this stuff has 1,000 parts per million zinc, but the hot shot stuff only has 500, oh, I want the stuff with the better protection. So being conscious of that, we take the sulfur-based zinc that we use and we crank it up through the roof, even though it's already twice as strong. And all of our racing oils run right around 3,000 parts per million of a sulfur-based zinc, which is effectively 5 or 6 times more zinc than any other oil out there, but a better type of zinc. So that's on your protective side. We run 1,000 or 2,000 parts per million calcium, and then the final ingredient there is the antimony, which antimony is the most expensive component you can ever put in an oil, but antimony basically supercharges zinc at very low doses. So you can run 5 to 10 parts per million of antimony and get a lot out of your zinc package. We throw 1,000 parts per million of antimony. I mean, now at this point, we're literally throwing the kitchen sink and the dumpster and everything in with it. Like, it's the most over-engineered oil ever made. But 1,000 parts per million antimony pushing the 3,000 parts per million zinc, if you're still following. And then I haven't even got to the FR3, which we kind of talked about earlier. We had our nanocarbons in there, which reduced the wear by an additional 40%. So all in all, you've got a bulletproof engine oil that won't shear or come out of grade, and has more anti-wear protection by 2 or 3-fold than anything in the industry. And it costs a lot, but it costs us that much to make it, unfortunately. And it's just a really darn good oil.
After that explanation, all I can envision for you, my friend, the only thing that you could do to top that off is Ace Ventura after he solves the crime in the hotel suite or in the penthouse suite. Remember that? And he starts air humping how great he is. Go ahead and take that moment, my friend. You earned it.
Hey, I don't think that was Ryan. We do put a formula out there. The recipe, like that's the thing about the lubrication industry. It's crazy. If you learn how to read a tech data sheet, it's unique about our industry. We all have to put our recipe out there. So that's why if you ever see me at an event or you see a Hot Shots booth at the event, feel free to come over and talk to us. Like we're not gonna judge you for what oil you use, but we'll want to educate you. And I guarantee you, I'll show you what's in your oil. And if I gave you any little information just from like how I described our racing oil, and say you came to me and you found out you had a Group 2 oil that's conventional that can shear very easily, is running 400 or less parts per million of ZDDP zinc and has molybdenum at a low level. Well, I mean, wouldn't you want to know that? And if you still choose to use it, hey, that's all you. But like, at least we could try to educate you on what you're running.
In your new motor, you just spent 20, 30, 50, 60.
Right. But you're trying to save, a couple $100 on oil. It's like,
yeah. Toss
or
it,
at the very least, run some diesel oil. People, they call it poor man's racing oil, and there is some truth to that. And that's coming from a diesel company.
Let's see. Toss a blown HD scenario on a pass. Will it still catch and save you on the high RPM if you caught contamination from coolant?
Sure. In a couple ways. That is when you're going to see a reduction in viscosity because you're diluting the oil, just like having bypass in alcohol fuel. That will thin your oil. There's nothing you can do about it. You start pouring water in your oil, it's going to thin out. So where it holds viscosity is just under the load. The oil itself can hold up to it. So let's assume a blown head gasket on a pass. Now you've got coolant over. Your engine oil is now gone from a 50 weight down to a 40 weight mid-pass high RPM. I believe if I'm getting your question right. At that point, your saving grace is not going to be the viscosity of a Group 4 oil because it's been watered down. Your saving grace there is going to be the FR3, which we haven't really got into, but that's a whole nother lecture of how the FR3 works. But in short, it's a nanocarbon technology, which is super micro nanos of 400th of a human hair if you're to slice it. That stuff right there. And that actually, it's heat. It's just like that shift restore ester I told you about earlier. It's heat sensitive and it's polarized. So it's attracted to metal and it wants to go to the hottest spot. And that's what we call hot spots in your engine. That's where the tightest tolerances are. The tightest tolerances is where the oil gets heated the most and starts to coke. And oil is just a hydrocarbon. So what happens is you burn the hydro side off the carbon and it leaves behind a carbon deposit. That's why when you open up an old engine, you see that brown varnish look. That's old carbon that lost its hydro. It's old burnt oil. That causes a lot of issues with flow and everything else. So the FR3 wants to find those tight spots. It gets attracted to the heat, and it unlike other cleaners, it cleans and it does it through a lubrication process. So we're actually returning the hydro to the carbon. So that old burnt up oil, it's kind of like adding water back to the Kool-Aid. All of a sudden, we make it liquid again, And now that varnish buildup becomes part of your oil, which your oil filter can pick up and it passes through just fine. But now it frees up all those components of the engine. So that's the initial stage of it. Now those FR3s, the carbon nanoparticles, find any machining void, or if it's a new engine, let's say, or if you got some wear marks in an older engine, a race engine that's seen some passes, and it's going to find all those voids and fill them with little nanocarbon particles. They bond to that metal surface and they create a flat film layer. And in tribology, we want the flattest film layer we can. The flatter, the better. It's easier to build some um, shear strength off it with your oil film strength of your oil. So now you've got a protection level. That is what's going to save you on that pass. Regardless of how thin the oil's been out, the nanocarbons will bond to that engine, and they actually stay in the engine far after you've switched to a different oil. We still don't know how long, but thousands of miles afterwards, those nanocarbons can still protect the engine and reduce wear, reduce heat, and allow for power. So I always kind of tell to my sponsored racers, my drivers, I'm glad to keep these guys on the track all year and have maintenance down and have engine protection, and that's the end game for me, is to make sure they're racing all year. But if the how do I put it? Like the reduction of wear is the backside, the horsepower is just a byproduct that the guys kind of like to see and like to see the power out of it. But it's really the protection of the engine. And that's what the FR3 does at the end of the day. I'm not going to measure myself on how well you raced. I'm going to measure myself on the catastrophic moment. When something goes bad, it's kind of like insurance. You never know how good it is until you have to put in a claim, and then you find out how good your insurance is. Well, that's how engine oil is. There's a lot of oils that will get you through most of the passes that you make in your vehicle. But that one time you have something catastrophic, like a head gasket spill over, and now you're at a high RPM and it's drying out the oil, that's when you find out how good your oil is. And that's where we shine, is in the catastrophic moments. And we've been involved in a lot of catastrophic engine failures in some of our really cool testing that we get to do and stuff. And it's amazing how well our stuff protects way past engine failure. So that's where we hang our hat, is on that. So, and that's when you find out how good your oil is on the worst moments,
So the FR3, if I'm understanding this, it's a penetrant, penetrates the metal, stays on the surface. So now you're not,
it doesn't penetrate it, but it bonds to it,
or bonds to it. So now you're an FR3 lubricant to your external lubricant, your oil, versus oil drag on the part. So that's where you're getting that's how it's freeing up horsepower and creating longevity, is because basically in terms of friction, you become lubricant on lubricant versus lubricant on metal.
Yeah, what you're trying to do is create the flattest film layer you can possibly do. So here's another bad analogy, and this is just from my world of unnerding our really smart guys. And this is a terrible analogy, but it works for some people. Imagine if you're standing on the bank of like a river, and you see this similar, Ryan. So if you're looking across the river, and the middle of the river is flowing really fast, but over by the banks it's kind of like twirling around and kind of sloshing around. Well, that's from all what we call asperities on your engine surfaces. So if you had two surfaces or the banks of the river, and you have all these wear marks and machining marks on brand new engines, all those asperities tend to disrupt the oil flow, and you'll start to get imagine gullies, on the side, while the middle of the river is going twice as fast because it hadn't been restricted as much. Well, if we came in with nanocarbon particles on a large scale and filled in all of those banks of the river, almost to be like a concrete wall on both sides, like you see in the Suez Canal or something. Well, if you watch that, then all of that river flow is just as fast from side to side. So imagine that being what's going on in between two pieces of metal. You're always going to have a fast flow right in the middle. But if we can get more oil to pass through a surface, you can that's where the heat reduction comes down. We're actually passing more oil through the same tolerances. And that's where the nanocarbons create that flat film layer to lubricate the lubrication, as you kind of said, to slide everything through even better and faster. And then that's less metal wear, less heat, more power, more fun.
We definitely need to do. We've been going 2 hours. We definitely need to do another one with just FR3. It sounds like
We could.
and
That's crazy, man. That's some crazy stuff.
And do some of the oil analysis charts as well. I think that's a good idea.
That's a good question. We should do Brian's question too. Like,
yeah.
To give you a quick answer, Brian, we got a great chart we use. Engine builders screw this stuff up all the time. Proper viscosity selection for race oil. Call us. We'll walk you through it. But it's basically a cross reference of your tolerances, all your bearing measurements, rod mains, what type they are, steel, aluminum, and then the third cross reference is what operating temp are you running at. Most of the time, nobody goes to that third level, so we might dial in the perfect viscosity for what your engine specs say. But if you're running at 160 degrees or something, well, that oil viscosity is going to be at a completely different level then. So that isn't always communicated. So, but if you have your build list on an engine build list and you have all your tolerances and specs, give us a call. We'll give you some good advice at what the proper viscosity is, and then from there, like we said earlier, we'd like to do some oil analysis after we get some passes on it, so we can really dial in the viscosity where it needs to be.
Yeah, I think he answered your question there, Doc. Call in and they'll tell them what you're doing and just be honest about everything, and they'll zing, zang, boom, they'll work their magic and tell you exactly what you need. Link to the website is in the comments. Also, the phone numbers right there on the. One of my biggest pet peeves about websites is they always hide the phone numbers or the email addresses, not at Hot Shots.
Anybody call? No, we answer the phone there.
Yeah, right there. Look, bang, easy to find.
Yep. Hey, we didn't even talk about World Series and No Prep, brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
I did before you got on.
Oh, cool. I'm gonna make it out there, man. I got to. I'm making at least 2.
What the fuck, out of 9?
Dude, you know my schedule. I think Chris is gonna make a couple more that I won't.
I don't think that Chris is making very many races, it looks like, this year either.
Well, Chris thought that he, I do this. I travel all the time, set up these booths, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah. He's here, buddy. So I think I finally wore his ass out last week. The match show was pretty grueling. So,
oh, bro. No, when we had the hot rod shop and the powder coat shop, and yeah, you do. Day 3 is like your breaking point. So I can't imagine 8 days. I think we did. I think 5 days was our longest show back when we had our shop.
Well, it's only a 3-day show, but I had to be there that long because we put a semi truck in the booth this year, and it had to be first in Monday morning, so I'm there.
Yeah. Yep. Call in, talk to them. They'll get you taken care of, Ryan, for sure. If you got anything I can answer, holler at me. I'll help you out too. Let's just wrap it up there, man. Kyle's been all over the country. He's tired. We appreciate your time, buddy.
Anytime, bro. You know that.
We do. Let's figure out a date to come back with maybe some of the nerds, and they can nerd speak. You can dumb it down, and we can educate people more on the
FR. Can I stir up some shit in the no prep world?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
let my all-wheel drive diesel guys play. Just let them play.
They're loud.
All right.
They're allowed at Uncaged this year in small tire.
Okay.
They're allowed in the World Series of No Prep.
We're doing some big things over on the diesel side.
And they know it.
There's going to be some fun stuff coming.
They didn't show up to the first one. What's he doing? What's Austin doing? Is he even running right now?
No.
Yeah.
Soon though.
I thought I saw a post where he was doing something.
Yeah. There's a lot coming this year. There is a lot coming. So well, we need to do an episode where we don't talk anything about Hotshot Secret products, but let's talk about racing. And I want to get this gas world ready for this diesel world that's going on right now, and we're gonna have some crazy shit happen this year. So just wait and watch.
I'm all about it. Whatever you need, I'm there to help. I love. We could talk about racing. Who you got? Who you want to bring on?
Oh, we should bring people on.
We can bring Austin on. Those fire punk guys.
Did you see the new car?
They know a little something about racing, right? Yeah.
That new fire punk car is sexy.
They always build nice stuff.
Yeah, this one's really nice.
Yeah. Didn't catch a gasket for now. Yeah. Yeah, just hit me up, Doc. Well, still got to call you. I'll call you tomorrow, Doc, and catch up on the weekend. And then I think I probably got some FR3 I can send you.
There's more where that came from.
So I'll send you a bottle to try, but definitely need to get on that adrenaline oil also. Get away from that other.
I like that before after idea too. If you guys ever do want to try our products, I really think it's the time to do a before after test, because like I said earlier, the FR3 bonds to the engine, so we call them virgin engines if you've never crossed over before. So go get a sample of what you've been running on, take a sample of it, and then try the FR3 or try a racing oil and do another sample, and then let's just let the chips fall where they may. Then
Well, I mean, listen. For a couple $100 in oil and 2 tests, you'll know. You won't be guessing. You'll know.
Right.
You'll know what's best for your engine. Collect the data. Don't be a cheap ass. And on the front end, don't pinch pennies to spend dollars later.
Right.
But anyhow, let's wrap it up. What's that? You don't want to see your sample. Yeah. I know I saw it on the line. I'll just call you anyways. Let's wrap this up. Let Kyle get some rest, and we'll be back next. I don't have anybody on the schedule for next week, so I don't know what we'll do. I'll find somebody, but we'll get somebody on the schedule for next week. We'll be back next Monday. Appreciate all you guys tuning in, and Kyle,
thanks for having me, man.
Always appreciate you.